Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Nerding Out podcast. In this episode, we've got a very interesting topic to discuss. We are going to be discussing the scientific inaccuracies of the T-Rex in the Jurassic Park franchise. Now, I want to completely say this as a disclaimer: I am not a professional scientist. This is just me researching as a person who is interested in dinosaurs and a lot of, paleo and the science to do with that. So, this video is going to work into two parts. The first part, we're going to be discussing inaccuracies and accuracies. So, the things that they got right and the things they got wrong. And then later on, we'll go into the why, because there is actually some logic behind why this was done. It wasn't just that, because it was down to multiple factors, but let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to discuss is the actual diet of the T-Rex, because in the very first time, not that we necessarily it's actually not the first time we hear of the T-Rex, but the first time we actually see the enclosure and the stuff like that is when there's the goat. Now, some of this stuff gets very pedantic, but basically a T-Rex would not be feeding on a goat, because realistically a goat only weighs approximately 150 kg. Now, that is obviously a lot. 150 kg is a lot. However, the T-Rex ate species in its time, like Edmontosaurus and Triceratops. Now, these two species weighed 12 and 3.4 thousand kg, by the way. So this is 12,000 kg and 3.4 thousand kg. Now that's a lot more there. So for a T-Rex to be eating just a goat doesn't seem realistic. And I know it was more ethical, but realistically, feeding a T-Rex, that would not make that much logical sense when you think about it. Like, if I think about, how hungry I am sometimes, I eat quite a lot as if, like, not just me, but like if humans we eat quite a lot. Is it like 2,000 calories you need? That's like a lot. Like, you eat 3 meals. But imagine only giving you like a bowl of rice. And obviously there are places in the world where there is that much poverty, and you get that, and you can see there's malnutrition. Like, species need the amount of food they do. Like, that can't change. That diet is diet. You can try and eat different things, but if you're not getting the right caloric intake, it's not going to be right. So yeah, it's kind of that, and it also brings me to the next point, and this is more of accuracy than inaccurate, because the other point was obviously inaccurate in the movie, but this next point is more accurate, because Grant in there, he goes, the T-Rex was more of an active hunter. He doesn't want to be fed, he wants to hunt, implying that it's an active hunter. Now, this is completely true. T-Rex was 110% an active hunter. It had territory, but it would roam around and eat. It didn't want to just, it sometimes scavenged. Like, let's be real, if it saw a carcass on the floor, it would eat it. But it was more of a hunter. It used endurance to hunt its prey. And yeah. So it probably wouldn't have wanted to be fed by a goat on a lead. That now kind of, that's a little bit unrealistic. Next thing we're going on is like the actual, because this is kind of all the stuff before it sees. Now, then we obviously move on to when we see the T-Rex. And when we see the T-Rex, it's actually pretty good. Like, all things considering, like the legs, the arms, and the tail, like, they look very similar to how the skeletal structure and like the 3D models of what it would look like it's very similar, and it's all that stuff, and it's kind of cool. And like, especially in those sizes compared to it was very good. The only thing that was kind of a bit like icky about it was like the eyes were shown very much like a crocodile, really far back into the face, and it was also given an overbite very similar to a crocodile. Now, the T-Rex had neither of these things, didn't have an overbite, and its eyes really weren't that far back into it. It very much showed more of like an Allosaurus or a Giganotosaurus kind of face. but like all things considered, we take that. So it was an inaccuracy, but it was only a smaller one. And then kind of taken on to like quite a recent like point in like a lot of the scientific community and the paleo community, and it's the fact about feathers. Now in Jurassic Park it shows completely like lizard-like, no feather, very much like scaly and reptilian. Obviously in the prologue for Dominion you actually get it, and when we talk feathers we're not talking about the massive bird feathers, it's almost like thin hair-like structures, and this was what was known as prehistoric feathers. Obviously there were some species like Archaeopteryx, which was like a raptor with actual bird-like feathers, but apart from that, when we talk about feathers we talk about more thin hairs. Now it's been debated because a lot of our juvenile fossils of T-Rex that have been found have shown that it has had these ones, but there haven't been many adults, so it poses the question, did T-Rex have it or not? Now, because of the evidence we have, it's all speculative, but the evidence we have tells us that they did have a small amount of feathers on the top of the head and the back, not fully covering, but that, so we go off of that. However, the arguments against it is, firstly, it's not been found in adults, and secondly, the US at the time, they obviously like Americans, so they're in the US, so they're gonna be quite like, humid climate, it's gonna be hot, it's gonna be warm. So would they really need that much feather for heat? Like, they already live in a hot climate, and especially at the time, it was almost like like plains, hot, deserty, but also quite forested. So it would have got shade, but it would also be quite hot. Yeah, it would be hot. So the actual current like working theory, I say there's no proof of this, but it's kind of hypothesized, and it's a kind of a mix of both ones. It acknowledges that the juveniles did have some, but it also acknowledges the fact that they wouldn't have any need for it, and it's very similar to penguins, modern day penguins. Obviously, if you see a baby emperor penguin, it's adorable and it's covered in feathers. But when you see an adult emperor penguin, it looks less fluffy and more, I don't know, I think you know what I mean. It's not got the big feathers, it obviously sheds them. And this is actually what they hypothesized adults to do as they grow from juveniles to adults, is actually lose some of that. As they grow taller, they eat more, they actually lose it. And it's actually a very interesting hypothesis. I recommend going away and reading on it, because there is obviously, it's a lot of scientific debate over it, and it also has a lot of interesting research behind it. And yeah, it's just very interesting. But yeah, that's kind of, I don't know, it's technically not an inaccuracy, but it also is, because if you get what I mean. So you can debate that amongst yourselves whether you personally think it's an inaccuracy or an accuracy. Oh, that was a lot to take in. I'm going to take a quick breather. And while I kind of get to this kind of there, I hope you like my office. Obviously, I've built this little office where we can do podcasts. This is actually, my room and office doesn't look anything like this, but the only thing that does is the chair. Apart from that, I don't have a cactus, I don't have a cat, I don't have a parrot, I don't have netherite armor. But yeah, I hope you like it. Next we're going to move on to another inaccuracy, and it's actually quite a common inaccuracy. I think it's probably one of the most widely argued inaccuracy in the whole of the franchise. Because one of the things in the franchise is the idea that the T-Rex had poor eyesight. It stems from when Alan Grant goes, "Don't move, it won't see us if it can't see us if we don't move." Now, this is completely false. This was debunked relatively soon after the movie release, and it's basically to do with the visual acuity, which is your ability to distinguish objects from a distance. Now, we know from fossils and studying them that the T-Rex had an incredible sense of sight. In fact, it was so good that it was 13 times better than humans. Now, think about what we can see, and imagine being able to see things 13 times more detailed, 13 times more there, and they also had better colour vision. So, as we see, like, I'm colourblind, so my colour vision is awful, but as a normal person, without colour blindness, you see it. And imagine seeing not just 30 times clearer, but a wider spectrum of colours. Like this yellow banner, imagine the different shades of yellow you would see. All due to that their eyes were actually the size of grapefruit. Now, obviously, that allows for a lot more to be going on in there, and a lot more muscle, and a lot of that. And to be fair, it's not just to do with the size of their eyes, but it's also the ratio of size to them. I think humans have quite small, in the animal kingdom, we've got quite small eyes. I know there's a lot more animals with quite a lot bigger eyes compared to their body. That's what, but also their brains, they were quite smart creatures. And that also meant that they had a really good sense of smell and hearing. So when you combine all three of these things, the eyesight, the smell, and the hearing, you now get the sense of why T-Rex rose to power in the Cretaceous, because it was the ultimate hunting. It was a predator. It was probably an apex predator at the time. Probably not much could take a T-Rex down. And obviously, you know, there will be later videos on this podcast maybe about that. But yeah, I think that is probably one of the most widely debated things, and probably as someone who is interested, when I watched the movie, I think to myself, oh, that didn't happen like at all, and it's a bit funny. But everything we said there is kind of more scientific, but now we get into really nitpicky stuff. Now, in one of the key scenes is there is obviously three of the characters in the Jeep getting away from the T-Rex. Now, they were using a 1992 Jeep Wrangler for this. Now, at the time, it had a 0 to 60 time of 9.4 and a top speed of 100 miles an hour. Now, that's obviously quite quick. And from T-Rex footprints and like the trace fossils, and from like the actual looking at the actual structure of its leg and how they would link up to like the fossils and how it would link to the main body and obviously the muscles that would be in there, we can actually estimate its stride. And we managed to figure out that the top speed of the T-Rex was only 12.5 miles an hour. That means if Dr. Sattler had her foot to the floor, which she probably did if he was in a shade, she would be going just under 100 miles an hour. Now, it is on rough terrain, so you could argue she probably wasn't going that far. But in any case, that T-Rex would not be able to catch up at all. I think I said earlier, T-Rex wasn't fast by any means, but it used its endurance to outlast its opponents. While they would sprint off and then get worn down, it would be slowly catching up. For a T-Rex, it was a marathon, not a sprint. And this links me on to another point where I think Hammond says we clocked the T-Rex at 32 miles an hour. We've already established that couldn't run that quick. So, another inaccuracy. And I think you also see it walk through the log. Now, T-Rex were big, don't get me wrong, they were big. But they couldn't walk through logs. That would break their bone. Imagine when you stub your toe on a wooden footstool, it hurts a lot. Now that's the same thing for a T-Rex walking into a log. It would break their leg. That is completely there. On the other hand, that is an accuracy, but it could have easily used its head. Its skulls were thick, so it could have probably broken that log. And it was, mind you, it was quite a thick log that fell down. It wasn't just like a branch, but it could very easily use its head to do it. And yeah, now the next inaccuracy that I'm bringing on to is actually its eating, and what we see is in the Gallimimus scene, we see it chase them and we see them running from it, and it actually pins it down, and then it rips it. It pins it down and then it brings it up and it almost rips it and like shakes it like a dog. Now, the T-Rex has probably one of the strongest bite force in the animal kingdom, and it had massive teeth. That means one chomp would destroy its bones, so it wouldn't shake its head like a dog. On the other hand, the pinning down would be quite similar to the stuff it would do. If it had a moving target, it would probably pin it down. We see it in modern birds all the time. Birds of prey like peregrine falcon or eagle, they pin their prey down and then they take bites out of it. T-Rex probably did the same. It probably would straight away crush its skull, would probably bite straight on the animal's skull, and then it would carry on eating, feeding off of it, which is further evidenced, and we know this because we can actually see in fossilized dung, we can see the feces, we can look at that and see what it ate, and we can see how they ate. And from that, we're already telling you that it would definitely have just taken large chunks out of it at time. Not biting, not shaking it like a dog. And yeah, I think that's everything about the T-Rex thing. Those were the accuracies and inaccuracies. And now I'm going to take a quick break, but then we can get on to why this was. So you now may be thinking to yourself, okay, now obviously these are all inaccuracies, but there's got to be a reason for it. Like, why is some things accurate and some things inaccurate? Well, the simplest answer is the fact it was 1993. We're currently in 2006. We have had, what, I'm going to try and tell 3 years, brings it to 9, 10 to 03, 20 to 3. We've had 33 years since that movie released. That's 33 years of research and study and more information we gathered. So our scientific understanding has just changed since then. Some of the things at the time there that was accurate probably were accurate. Now we've proved it wrong. I mean, a really good example is Spinosaurus. Everyone saw Spinosaurus in Jurassic Park 3 and thought, wow, now it looks like a freaking sailboat. It's changed so much as our understanding does, and our technology develops to be able to study these creatures. But another point is actually, and Michael Crichton and Steven Spielberg, well, both of them had two reasons. So Michael Crichton was the author of the Jurassic Park, and he said that the reason he made, in his book, he described the T-Rex this way, was because he wanted it to show the effects of genetic engineering. Obviously, genetic engineering is the whole thing that brought them back, and it's quite obvious there that they used tree frog DNA. Now, he wanted to show that these, as Alan Grant put it, were theme park monsters. They were genetically engineered, and they weren't pure forms of the T-Rex, so they wouldn't look the same anyway. So it was more of a design choice to keep it different. And obviously Steven Spielberg, when creating the movie, he wanted it to be intense, dramatic horror, not like horror as in, I don't know, The Conjuring or Friday the 13th horror, but a little bit scary, you know, makes you sit into your seat, maybe grab your popcorn a little bit tighter, maybe, you know, hold the pillow behind you. It was all for dramatic effect. Now, these three reasons are all very good reasons for it. But you also got to understand that it is a fictional movie. At the end of the day, Jurassic Park is a brilliant movie. It's brilliantly directed, brilliantly written. It is obviously based on the book, and the book is amazing. If you haven't, buy the book. It is an amazing book, by the way. But it's just not necessarily about the fact... It's not a documentary. If I was watching like David Attenborough's documentaries that he's done on dinosaurs or on the BBC, I'd 100% expect there to be no inaccuracies. It's all accurate information. But it's a fictional movie. It wasn't supposed to... It was the first time we really saw dinosaurs on the big screen. And it wasn't supposed to be, oh, here's what they were. It was supposed to be just a movie about how people, and it was more of a statement about the world we live in and the geopolitics around it. Jurassic Park as a movie was about letting us, a warning the future of what technology done, and that humans hold currently the most power that they ever have. We wield power like we're gods, but we cause destruction like we're in World War II again. And it's just crazy, and it's a great warning of like what could happen and like how humanity is in there. And I think that's just it. I think when you watch Jurassic Park, it's a great lesson to us all. And I honestly think it is a beautiful movie, and I think it's humbling. Watching the Jurassic franchise is so humbling because it shows you how small we really are on Earth, and it's just incredible. And if you haven't seen Jurassic Park, I fully recommend going and watching it. If you haven't read the books, go buy it and just if you have time, go into depth and just research science. Science is so cool. Like, I enjoy just researching like dinosaurs and like Jurassic Park, stuff like that. There's also I like time travel. I research time travel all the time. Just if you're interested in that, don't be afraid of what other people think. If you're interested in it, let you be interested. Go and research that, pick up a book, go online, don't use Wikipedia. Read articles. Go to your local museum. Curiosity is what makes us as a species so cool, and science is just so cool. And I would recommend it to anyone, even if you're not someone who likes education. Just look at something even just like space. Who doesn't love space? Just look at our planets, go outside, look at the stars. Whether it's something that small or reading a paper and doing your own research, that it could be small or it could be massive, but I think it's so great. And I really do hope you enjoyed this episode of the podcast. It was very different. We've obviously done Formula 1 based podcasts. I've done ranking podcasts, but I'd like to do a few more of these podcasts where I give you guys information. Not necessarily dinosaurs, other sciencey things, other nerdy things. It's the Nerding Out podcast. It's basically me discussing from anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour about a topic that I like or someone likes, something. And if you have stayed this far, I want to thank you. It's very easy to just see podcast and not watch it. And obviously, I don't know if you've been paying much attention to me in the background. And it's not about the Minecraft background. This office I just built so you had something to look at, and if you were watching on YouTube, because I'm not showing if you saw me, trust me, it wouldn't be any less more than this. My skin and myself, I basically look like that, so it wouldn't be much different. But yeah, this kind of podcast stuff, I've been enjoying making them, and I'm definitely going to feel, especially since we've got this new mic, I think the audio is crisper. But obviously, if it's not your thing, it's not your thing. I still appreciate the sport. But if you have enjoyed this podcast, I'd really enjoy you hitting the like button and subscribing. Obviously, I do so much on this channel now that if you want to stay tuned, and you can stay tuned for the next one. And if you haven't, go and listen to some of the other podcasts I've done. There'll be more episodes coming out. They're all individual episodes. It's never part 1 or part 2. They don't follow on from each other. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed that. And yeah, I'll catch you all later. See ya.